Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
What is up, friends, Roman, countrymen? Lend me your ear, for it is I, your good pal J. Cal, along with my good pal and your good pal DKM right here. What is up, DK? How are you?
I can't get my ear off.
That's okay. Leave it on. It's better on your side of your head than it would be anywhere else.
Well, you said you wanted it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. How are you on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, evening?
Bitter that it's not Friday.
Yeah, are you kidding me, man? It's been a week. I don't know if you guys have been watching, but we've done, well, this is the fourth podcast that we've done this week, meaning that after tonight's episode, there will be at least 6 hours of content this week. Did you watch the other Alliance guys yet, DK?
I have not had the opportunity. I plan to catch up tomorrow when I should be working.
Shout out to our pals Dave Scooby, Tim from NWA Gold, and Jeremy from Wrestling with the MMA. Those guys knocked it out of the park yesterday. It was a lot of fun. I got to be on the inaugural episode. Now, I won't be on every episode. I probably won't be on another episode for a while, but those guys did a great job of talking NWA. I was very proud of their contributions. If you guys are watching this show right now and haven't seen it, make sure you go back and take a look at it, because I really had a lot of fun on that show. And the format's different. They talk about different things, but it was a lot of fun.
As long as they don't disagree with me, everything's good.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to disagree with a voice of reason, you know.
I agree.
They never, the winner of the prize never claimed their prize. We need to give away another title belt again.
Well, I say we give it to Bob.
Bob? Hey, Bob, are you in the house tonight?
Just look down the list of subscribers and contact Bob.
Well, I don't see Bob. There is no Bob.
There should be at least one Bob.
What about Bob?
That was a good movie. I actually like that.
What about me? What about Jason? See what I did there?
No, I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry.
What was that? Was that an animal knocking something over?
No, that was me knocking something over, apparently.
Well, you are an animal. Don't forget that. Oh, gee. Okay, so I don't know what we're doing here anymore. Jaden may or may not be joining us later. I don't know. I'm not. I won't be surprised either way. Hear any good rumors or gossip about the NWA?
Any rumors or gossip about the NWA? No, honestly, I really haven't. Now that I think about it, it's been a while, but I've not heard anything one direction or the other about the NWA.
The only thing that I've heard, late breaking news, this weekend, I believe it was this weekend. Let me go double check now that I'm not sure. this weekend, yes, Camille was set to defend the NWA Women's World Championship against Miranda Gordy at Coastal Championship Wrestling Fan Fest. Don't let the name confuse you. They're not really by a coast. They're in, I believe they're in Tennessee, maybe even Nashville. Anyways, she was all set to defend against Miranda Gordy, but I guess due to medical issue, a concussion potentially, Miranda Gordy's out. She's not cleared to compete. So they went and got a replacement, and God, I hope this match somehow airs on TV because it's going to be Rekka Tahaka taking the place of Miranda Gordy. Now, if you're not familiar with Rekka Tahaka, you can check out some of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood's latest offerings. She was on the first set of tapings for 2022. She was also on a couple of the tapings from Atlanta. This lady is the real deal. She's still young in the game. She's not 100% like a veteran yet, but God bless us when she becomes a veteran. Look out. She is the real deal.
I'll have to take your word on it. I have not seen her yet.
She's solid. And I'm going to write her name in the chat so guys could go and take a look at Rekka Tahaka. I thought it was Rekka Khan, and I guess my brain made that weird name for her because that's not it. Rekka Tahaka. Not to be confused with Tahaka Michinoku.
Oh, no.
That was a joke for anyone paying attention.
What?
What? So, and then of course, I don't know if you've heard about this, but the reality of wrestling. Oh, see, Willie backs me up on this. She's an awesome wrestler. And wrestling with the MMA, Jeremy says Rekka will be a big star for sure. Jaden asked if I added too many N's in her name, and yes, I did. I did that intentionally. I did that for the cheap pop there, Mr. Jaden. The reality of wrestling, which their events are coming up here soon in the great state of Texas. They have an event coming up where they're going to feature both Camille and Tom Latimer. Have you heard about this one?
I heard they were coming to Texas. I have not heard the details yet.
I believe it's going to be, it's actually next week, July 9th at the Booker T World Gym Arena. The reality of wrestling, Camille, obviously if she gets through Rekka Tahaka, she's going to be putting her title on the line yet again at the Summer of Champions, where it's Team Booker versus Team Charmel as they're fighting for control of the company. And also on that event, we'll have NWA Women's World Champion Camille. Tom Latimer also scheduled for that event. So it's going to be, you're going to see some of these NWA champions traveling. Just a few weeks ago, we had Camille out here in Southern California competing for the XPW Women's World Championship. Then you had, Trevor Murdoch competing at Wildcat, the Hawk family wrestling promotion, where
he won a title.
Yeah, he won the title. He won the Wildcat Championship. So I think we're going to see our champions out and about a little bit more. I'm hoping for Jax Dane to get out there and maybe defend that national championship. Remember, Trevor Murdoch famously defended that title, that national championship, at SWE Fury. Now I know they're on permanent hiatus or indefinite sabbatical, but it would be nice to see the national champion also out there defending the belt. What do you think about that?
I want Jack Sting to come here somewhere close to me in Texas. It's been a while since I've seen him, and I always enjoy his matches. So come, please.
When is Iconic Heroes of Wrestling Entertainment running again?
We don't have a set date. Of course, for those who don't know, David Fuller had a medical event. And so that's kind of put a kibosh on some of the plans, but he is planning on running again. So don't think it's over.
That makes me happy to hear. I know he had some medical issue, and I know he's on the mend. But I'm very happy to hear that that they will continue to run, because it seemed like a very good experience for that Fort Worth area independent wrestling. And of course, their ties to the NWA. We're always rooting for the former promotions that were connected to the NWA. I mean, not that this is a podcast that talks about former NWA promotions all the time, but I mean, even our pals over at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators just ran this past weekend. Eric Martin retained the title. Surprised the hell out of me. I thought for sure Ray Jazz was going to regain that title. In fact, they even put their match up on YouTube today, I think. Have you seen it yet, DK?
I have not, but I'll go hunt it down and watch it on my big TV.
I'll put the link in the chat, just because if you guys are following this page, you definitely should be following Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. They're putting on some great content. And like I said, they just recently put up a lot of the matches from their last event that just took place Saturday. So, I mean, they are out there putting up the content. And, you know, we're always looking for good wrestling content. And I'm surprised Jaden hasn't said anything, because I know he has an affinity for that Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiator brand. I mean, that's his logo, for crying out loud, on our chat screen. So hopefully...
I was just kind of hoping you guys, I have the fans on the background, so I was hoping you guys would not be bothered by it with me talking. But yeah, Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators not only has Eric Martin versus Ray Jazz, that dog championship match, they just recently updated it with a match from the event before with two awesome wrestlers, Steven Stetson and Brett Waters. You also will see a match from Rowan University, which will have former WWE superstar Lindsay Dorado taking on the Prince of Camden, Deshaun Pratt. And you also just would see the World Wrestling Grand Prix Championship on the line, as champion Chris Steeler defends against Dark STG, former Dog Tag Team Champion, one half of Dog Tag Team Champion Steve Gibke in his altered persona. So you get to see those four matches just uploaded in the last few days. And more are to come, so make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We bring content to you every once in a great while, and not as often as obviously the Alliance guys, but you can see all the great action for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators.
And I just of the tag team titles.
Can you repeat that, DK?
What's the status of the tag team titles?
The new dog tag team champions, the Old School Empire, regained it. It was a 4 corners elimination match. In fact, if you want, I'll go over the whole results of the card from the opening match up. I'll give you the total results if you'd like.
Let's do a quick. If you could do a quick recap, we'd love to hear it. And we can't hear your fans, so you sound fine.
All right, Jason Morgan took on Chris Desmond. Chris Desmond won in the opening contest. 2 young lions trying to prove themselves in dog. Former WWGP heavyweight champion William Huckabee, he wrestled against Kyle Payne. William Huckabee came out on top in a battle of 2 bruisers. Yosifer L, the beast he is, took on a couple of guys named Nikki. Nikki 1 and Nikki 2 is how I had written in the results. I couldn't hear the ring announcer when he was talking about them. Again, the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Championship was defended as the Old School Empire once again are Kings of the Mountain. They defeated Primal Fear, former Ring of Honor Tag Team, the Golden Era, current Monster Factory Tag Team Champions, and the unusual tag team of Dylan Mesh and Kodiak. That was really, really good at a 4-way elimination match to determine the new champions. Ty Thomas took on Justin Adams. Ty Thomas is regaining his winning ways in Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, and the match with Justin Adams was very, very good. When that gets on YouTube, make sure you check it out. Chris Steeler retained the WWGP Championship against Dark STG. Dave Dahl somehow, once again, and I don't know how this happened, but was victorious against Nick Bati. And again, the main event, the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators champion, Glassboro's own Eric Martin, defeated former champion Ray Jazz. It was a very good match. You can check it out on YouTube.
I will definitely be checking out all of those matches as soon as I get an opportunity to do so. I recommend you also subscribe to that channel because, again, they're putting out some pretty good content. If you love pro wrestling like we do, they certainly do the style of wrestling that I can appreciate, that DKM can appreciate. I think more of our traditional wrestling fans will appreciate what they do over at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Their events are always family friendly, but they don't pull punches. You're going to get real wrestling, not the soap opera, not the watered down product. You're getting real pro wrestling. So make sure, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to that channel. Check out those wrestling matches, and who knows, maybe they'll do a giveaway when they get to 1,000.
Hey, maybe, and you never know. Also, let's add to this, Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, former NWA promotion. If you're a fan of traditional NWA wrestling, we're more NWA than the NWA is right now.
That's the truth, man. There's no lie there.
Very true.
No lie has been detected.
I enjoy a good dog match.
Oh, Ray Jazz. I mean, let's be honest. Number one, Ray Jazz was out here recently in Hollywood. Had no idea he was out here. If I knew he was here, I would have went to that show. But he competed at Championship Wrestling, the United Wrestling Network program, and got a victory over Invictus Cash, somebody who's a big player for the United Wrestling Network at this point. So it was kind of a big deal, him being out here. And the guy's uber talented. If you guys haven't seen enough of Ray Jazz, I cannot recommend him enough. He's competing in AEW, competing in United Wrestling Network. He's a former dog champion. He's not only was he a very dominant champion, but he went through a lot to get to that title and held on to it for quite some time. So, again, I highly recommend checking out those events. Highly recommended. And again, hit that like, comment, subscribe button. Join their community as well, because we will always talk about Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators on this program, and we want you guys to see the good product that they're putting out. With that being said, we talked about Camille's upcoming matches both this week and next week. Haven't really seen much of anything else for our NWA champions. DK, have you seen anything? I mean, are we missing something? Is there an impending world title match coming up that you're aware of?
Nothing that I'm aware of. Of course, I didn't know Murdoch was in the Wildcat match until they announced he won the title. I don't really see our tag team champions doing much. They're kind of like a cool team to have them on for a TV taping. I don't think they're going to do anything for us on a let's tour the world type thing.
Yeah.
And they're kind of that halfway between a makeshift tag team and a real tag team, you know. The two guys who have tag team backgrounds, but just kind of came together for this. So I don't know. I hear the Briscoes are available, just in case anybody's interested. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, and so I don't really keep up with Homicide's schedule, but I know he, you know, travels all over, wrestles all over. So it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't have a title match here or there planned.
We know that the Chase is the place where they're going to be next for the big pay-per-view, the 74th anniversary. It doesn't look like we're going to have an empowered pay-per-view. How do you feel about that, DK? Do you think that's a good idea, bad idea, or are you indifferent?
You know, they don't do a good job of building up a story for a single night of pay-per-view. I'm worried about building the story for 2 nights of pay-per-view. Look, pay-per-views can always have last-minute matches that aren't that important. You go back and you look at the early Starcades and the early WrestleManias. I mean, you know, let's remember King Kong Bundy versus S.T. Jones was on a WrestleMania.
That is legit, too.
Mike Davis versus Denny Brown was on a WrestleMania. WrestleMania Starcade. And Rocky King versus Denny Brown was was on a Starrcade. Nobody knows it because the match, it was one of two matches that never made it to any of the copies of the show.
Yeah.
It's like, if you go look for results, you'll never find them in the results. But I always thought, I remember he had a match. I remember he had a match at Starrcade, that Denny Brown and Rocky King had a match at Starrcade. And so finally one time, that was the year, I don't remember what year it was. That was the year that they split between Atlanta and Greensboro. And so apparently they left that match off, and they left off a Mexican promotions like middleweight title match or whatever. And so like when you go dig for results, you can't find it. But Jim Cornette was actually, one day they were talking about something else related to it. Maybe it was 86. And he was going through the results, and he mentioned those two matches. I'm like, I knew it. Like, I knew they had a match. But anyway, just getting back to the thing. I mean, my point was, we don't expect every match to be super competitive, high quality things. We expect opening matches for the card, but you know, they need to do something so that I care about most of the title matches, and they're just not real good at that. You know, a lot of times they just kind of spring people on you. And so, I mean, they ought to have all their titles defended over 2 nights again. So,
yeah, 100%. And I think the fact of that, you know, our pal Tim over at NWA Gold just posted right here. I think it'd be a shame not to have an Empower 2, if only because its absence will suggest that Empower 1 was a failure. You know, it's weird because I'm not sure where I saw James post it. James H. Jackson, our pal, he mentioned something about the fact that the James had copyrighted the term empowerment when it comes to wrestling. So like that leads me to believe that the NWA has no plans to run with that name going forward. And you know, I understand the difficulty in doing a show similar to that Empowered. I mean, you literally had so many moving pieces. You had talent appearing from AEW, and I know there was some hard feelings about the NWA and the AEW relationship after Empower.
I think we call that a bruised ego, you know, but
sure. And then of course, you know, there was talent from Impact, and it seems like the NWA and Impact at the very least have a working relationship at this point. But yeah, it's I don't know what's going to happen for sure with that. But as our pal Luthez posted in the chat, could have sworn that they mentioned the Burke Cup returning at the 74th. I still think that is the plan. I did hear Joe Galley mention that, and I still think they will have elements from Empower. Whereas whoever wins that, the Burke Cup, will get a shot at Camille the following night. That's probably still in play. They're just not going to go with that Empower name, which I think, again, I feel like that. I agree with Tim. I think it was a good night for women's wrestling, despite who put the show on or who possesses the name.
well, and I think we talked a little bit about this last week because some of this is starting to sound familiar to me.
All right.
But again, I think we run into the problem that even like Jim Crockett had when he did the Crockett Cup, which is, you know, the first year Pro Wrestling Illustrated did the seeding. They worked with Mid-South, which was at the same time becoming the Universal Wrestling Federation, you know, with Bill Watts and everything. And even then they had a hard time. They had a hard time getting enough teams and stuff together. The second year, it was down a little. By the third year, you know, they had to do a makeshift team win, and they didn't even have enough teams. And it was kind of like a good thing that Crockett sold, and there was never a fourth year. until, everyone trying to be hangers on with the name started running them in the mid-Atlantic area. And finally Billy got, real support for his two. But I'll be honest, I don't know that without the help of others that you can do Empower well every year. And it sounds weird to hear, but people get tired, they move on, they kind of want something else. I doubt Tony Khan's willing to send people and pay them, and I doubt, and even Impact, you can use our wrestlers, but we're not going to be the ones paying for them. If you guys want them, then the first time it's, everybody's excited. Like, oh yeah, we want to be part of that. The second time it's kind of like, yeah, I've been there, done that. We'll open our wrestlers up to you, but you gotta send, you gotta pay them and pay the travel and everything. And, it just doesn't become as realistic. And I don't know. Last year Empower was better than the second night. And the second night was good. I don't want to, I enjoyed both nights, but I just don't know that you can continue that. And let me tell you, people would rather end on a high than end on a low. Nobody wants Empower to go away because it sucked. And so I don't know, Jaden, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, logistics. Logistics is very difficult. Dealing with egos and other promotions and getting talent and booking matches, it's very, very difficult. Without AEW, since they got a lot of the good top talent kind of locked up right now, while I think still to this day Impact has the best women's roster, not in the WWE, it would basically be an Impact women's pay-per-view with a few NWA things sprinkled in. And I think that's part of the problem right there. Plus, I think Billy Corgan's ego probably got bruised a little bit himself because Mickie James booked a better event than the NWA 70 whatever. So I think that might have a little bit to do with it too.
So then, with that being said, I mean, what are we looking at for 74? I mean, what are you guys expecting? What do you think? If we were to just guess based on one episode or two episodes of this season's Power and the 3 episodes of USA, what do we expect?
Bad booking.
All right. That's fair.
And honestly, they haven't done anything really. I mean, who's going to be in the world title match? I don't know. They haven't really set anybody up for Trevor Murdoch yet. Hopefully they won't beat him with a chair and a steel cage to get the match. Who's out there that we want to see Trevor Murdoch wrestle?
Pope. Pope.
I mean, if you're pulling directly from the roster, that's the match that makes the most sense to me. But I mean, would either of you be disappointed if they somehow worked Tom Latimer into a title match with Trevor Murdoch?
Yes.
Well, again, you said the key word. If they work him into a title match, if they give proper build, if it's just a thing where him and Tom Latimer, Tom jumps him or something like that, and 4 weeks before the pay-per-view. I mean, it was funny when you said something about Tom Latimer going to Reality of Wrestling. I go, ooh, maybe he can get a win there.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great point.
And look, I think hopefully Tony Khan learned something with the booking of Adam Page. Everybody knew that Adam Page was eventually going to win the world title, and probably from Kenny Omega, but they didn't book him in a way that made him ever come across as a top world title contender beforehand, or a good champion during. And I honestly have a feeling they took the title off him sooner than they had originally anticipated because it just wasn't working out. And, you have CM Punk. Wouldn't you put the title on him?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to.
Was anybody... I'm sorry, DK.
No, go on.
Was anybody released recently from the WWE that can make a good challenger? I mean, I hope they're not trying to build up Bully Ray.
I don't think they're gonna use Bully Ray in that way. I think look, if the idea is that they want to use Bully Ray and they kind of planted the seeds with him and Mike Knox, Knox put him through a table. I could see them building up that match for maybe the 74th anniversary, but I don't think that has to involve either the World's Heavyweight Championship or Trevor Murdoch, unless we not forget, too, that on this big Ric Flair tribute card, which I'm not entirely sure when that happens, Nick Aldis said that Ric Flair invited him to be on that showcase. I could very much see them booking a Nick Aldis versus Trevor Murdoch for that event. Not that a title would necessarily change hands, but I could see that match being booked for that event.
And honestly, it probably wouldn't be a bad match for that event. I'll tell you what I don't want to see, and that's Trevor Murdoch versus Nick Aldis at the next pay-per-view. No,
not. I don't think. I think not for the NWA pay-per-view, right? But I think for another pay-per-view, another wrestling company, that might not be such a bad get.
Who is, Jay asked the question, and so people out there on the chat, who is out there with name big enough, i.e. a Matt Cardona, or in a way even Sam Shaw, which, by the way, is he the first WWE talent release that the NWA is actually picked up quickly and used?
Yes.
And so, I mean, I know he has a history with them, but I was just thinking, I think he's the first one. And, look on the tag team thing, I'd love to see the Briscoes come back.
Yeah.
I mean, and they could tie that back to Crockett Cup. Briscoes beat them for the Crockett Cup. And so
the seeds are already planted. It doesn't take a whole lot to make that match make sense.
And it keeps Law of Rebellion in the mix too, because Law of Rebellion did beat the Briscoes in a title defense. So, I mean, there's kind of a roundabout where everybody's beat everybody there. And to me, that makes sense. Don't make it a three-way.
You already tempted fate. It's a done deal. Billy's already booked it.
I'll slap the spit out of your mouth, Corgan. But anyway. Because they had such a good match at the Crockett Cup that if you give them the proper, if that would main event night one, I mean, if I didn't already have the subscription, I would get the pay-per-view just on Commonwealth Connection versus Briscoes for the title. I mean, that's enough of a thing. And so I don't know who's out there for Camille. I don't know if I want to see Killian King versus her again or not. It was a good match. Could they put on two that close together in the thing? I don't know.
Real quick, our pal Vincent said that Fandango was the first guy. And I think there's a little bit of truth to that, but I mean, technically, he wasn't ripe from his release, but he was a lot closer. I mean, Sam Shaw is the closest that's come from being connected to the WWE to being in the NWA. Obviously, Fandango and JTG both are guys that had history with the WWE and then came to the NWA. But, I think the closest has been the least amount of time was Sam Shaw.
Right. And I probably wasn't thinking about Dango because they immediately put him into a tag team.
Yeah.
Real quick, you mentioned Camille. Dakota Kai was released, I think, around the same time as Dexter Loomis, aka Sam Shaw. That might be somebody for Camille in the future. Well, I'm still trying
I wouldn't mind seeing that match at all. And,
yeah, she was a very talented wrestler when she wasn't injured.
And Kai had matches with what's her name? I think it was Gonzalez in NXT. Yeah. And so, I mean, she's familiar with the small woman, big woman dynamic. So, and she's quite talented. So, I mean, I think she could get a good match. Camille's come a long way. So, yeah, I mean, that's certainly a match I want to see. I don't know that I'd buy a pay-per-view specifically for that match, but, you know, it would not make me go, oh, no, I'm not watching that.
And Kai hasn't been active since leaving the WWE. She hasn't showed up anywhere else yet. So you never know where she could end up next.
And so I have no idea for Murdoch. I want to see on the tag teams, I want to see the Commonwealth Connection versus the Briscoes. For the national title, I'll take Dane versus... I could take him versus Latimer.
Yeah, I see that.
I mean, I think that could be good. What other titles do they have? Women's tag team titles. It'll be either a rematch or they'll defend against some other random thrown together tag team.
Well, hey, let's be honest. The second tag team with the most wins right now that's active is Max the Impaler and Chelsea Green. So why don't you just run with that for the pay-per-view? Because you don't have another women's tag team that's been established. So why the heck not?
And you know, that's actually a good. That makes sense. They put them out there. They've won. I can actually see them as tag team champions, believe it or not.
What about Mercedes and Trinity? They're not doing anything right now. They're former tag team champions in a different promotion, aka Sasha and crap, what was her name?
The Glow. I know who you're talking about. The Glow.
The Glow, yeah.
Yeah, gorgeous lady of wrestling.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. Problem solved.
Man, what? Okay, everybody, we're blank. Who is she in WWE? Naomi.
Naomi, there you go.
Okay, I got it before you guys. So anyway, yeah, I mean, it won't happen, but Naomi's still under contract, and supposedly they want to keep her under contract. We're hearing different stories about Sasha every day.
I wouldn't be surprised if Sasha, and I know this isn't a WWE chat, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if she showed up at the TLC pay-per-view.
You know, they
you mean
talk
Money
so
in the
much
Bank?
about her. I would actually expect to see her more than I would expect to see Naomi.
Yes, Jane, I did mean Money in the Bank.
Hey, WWE has never been one to shy away from controversial talent. What about Chad Lale, former Gunner, aka Jackson Riker, or the guy who runs the Run Your Narrative? What's his name?
EC3.
Yeah, why not?
I actually think of the two, I'd rather see EC3. But I think, yeah, I get where you're coming from, and I get where that would be appealing to Billy. He's not booking his promotion based on fan approval, right? Because if you watch this show, I mean, they brought Austin Aries in, somebody who was considered a controversial talent. They brought in Tyrus, who again was considered controversial, and I don't think they quite honestly care what you and I think about the talent they bring in. I think they have a plan when they bring these guys in, and Aries was there to kind of help kickstart the junior heavyweight division. The match with Homicide was really good, and now he's gone. Tyrus has been used in a way that it seems like he's going to be around forever, and I don't know he'll ever leave. So when you bring in somebody like Chad Lale or Ethan Carter III, I think either one of those would be an interesting pick. It just depends on how long you're going to use them for. James H. Jackson throws in Adam Scherr, formerly known as Braun Strowman. I mean, yeah, a lot of these guys would be interesting, especially when you put them opposite somebody like Jax Dane, because Dane is such a multifaceted wrestler. They're using him mostly as a power guy right now because, well, there's nobody on the roster who really matches size with him. But if you put him in the ring with a guy like Adam Scherr, the former Braun Strowman, he certainly looks a lot different. He doesn't look like the 6'4" monster he is right now. He looks much, much smaller. So, I mean, that would be an interesting concept as well. And you have to think, if it's the 74th anniversary show, that they're probably going to try to pull out some of the bigger names they can, anybody who's available. However, with all that being said, I think the guy that they put in the ring with Jax Dane at the 74th is probably going to be someone like Sam Shaw.
I wouldn't mind it. Shaw's actually a decent wrestler when he's not getting shackled with a stupid gimmick. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
You also mentioned the junior heavyweight championship with, again, Homicide. I believe it's this weekend. If not, it's very soon that that Great Jazz takes on Homicide. I got to hold on a second, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing Ray Jazz versus Homicide, but I don't know that wouldn't be a match necessarily. I think we'd see it the 74th.
No.
And honestly, I don't know who I'd want to see Homicide face at the 74th. I mean, is there somebody you would go nuts for, either an external name or a internal candidate? I mean, it's kind of wiped through the internal candidates.
He's unfortunately for the NWA, they didn't do the best job of building up future challengers for Homicide, because he's already beaten everyone that had some name recognition on the brand. Now, they could be building towards Luke Hawk versus Homicide, and that would be a fine match. They might also be building towards a PJ Hawks versus Homicide. And again, I mean, it's a repeat from Alwayz Ready, but that would be a good match as well. But if you want me to go crazy over someone, I think you're going to have to go outside candidate. And I think just off the top of my head, somebody whose name I think would work well, and I'm not sure his contractual status with MLW, but somebody like maybe Lince Dorado, who recently appeared in one of the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators events, former WWE superstar, Puerto Rican high flyer, very much with a lucha libre vibe. And I think putting somebody like Lince Dorado in the ring with a guy like Homicide, I think it's a recipe for success. What do you think about that one?
I think that would be a good matchup. It would certainly intrigue me. Again, it's not one that I would buy the pay-per-view on, but it would help. You know, there's two types of pay-per-views. There's one that is a one-match pay-per-view. And then there's the total card is worth it. And so then the question becomes, you know, where do you put people? And, you know, when you have a two-night pay-per-view back-to-back, you're probably going to have a one night that is just a, you know, one match sells it.
Yeah.
And a second night where, okay, the total of the card. So, like, if you would put, you know, if you put, let's say Dane versus Latimer, if you put Homicide versus Lindsay or anybody, you know, that caliber, you know, those are things that they would total up to being, ooh, that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we were talking earlier, actually the one that scares me and I could see them doing is Murdoch versus Tyrus for the world title. It's kind of giving me the heebie-jeebies at the moment.
I'd be honest, if that was like a retirement match, like if Tyrus loses, he has to retire, I would sacrifice the pay-per-view main event to get that match. I don't want to be the only one here asking for it, but if it's a 2-night pay-per-view, and theoretically speaking, the world title will be defended both nights. I mean, theoretically, I'd be all right with Tyrus night 1 and then a real credible challenger on night 2.
When does former champion Woo 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 come back?
Oh, they're saying he's at least 5 to 6 months out. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the timetable on that kind of an injury and how long it would take to recover. But I just imagine that it'll be every bit of the 5 or 6 months. So we probably see him at like Hard Times 3 if they run with that in December or early January. That's my best bet.
I could see that. Have we missed the title?
What's that?
Have we missed the title? I guess the TV title, assuming it's not Tyrus. Do we want to see Tyrus match up against anybody?
Look, in a perfect world, they got to take the belt off of Tyrus. And one way or the other, if they're going to have him win all 7 and cash in, that's fine. They got to get the belt off of Tyrus. And I'm hoping that by the pay-per-view, he either has a good opponent to face or he's cashing in, one way or the other. Because I think at this point, there's not a whole lot more that they can do with a Tyrus run as TV champion. And I at this point, I'm okay with anybody challenging for that title. Where you said you would like to see Tom Latimer versus Jax for the national, I'd rather see Sam Shaw and Jax for the national and Tom Latimer versus Tyrus for the TV title, because Tyrus is definitely a heel. Tom Latimer at this point is kind of being dragged into a tweener with him and Camille. So him winning that championship title would lend some credibility to him and to the mission statement for Camille and him trying to win the world championship title. It would make a lot more sense if that's what they want to do.
Well, I was going to say I would like to see him versus like a Giganotosaurus or a T-Rex, maybe a Spinosaur. Something with a really big jaw.
Honestly, putting the TV title on Latimer would be a good thing, because I think you can build him for 7 months and do a title defense a month and start building him as a world title challenger. I think if you can do that, it would be the first time that could really come in play. I wouldn't mind if Tyrus gets the title defense in here somewhere and then challenges but fails. But and I'd probably put the title on someone in between Latimer and Tyrus, and maybe a couple people, some short reigns to kind of get that belt rejuvenated. But then you can put it back on. Then you can put it on somebody like Latimer and actually give them a run. So I don't know. But,
well, I look. I promised the fans. I promised the viewers. I promised our friends that we would be talking about. We would speculate on the future of the NWA, and I think we all did some pretty good speculating there. There's a couple matches I think would be definitely worth watching if obviously the way that Power unfolds over the next few months is going to determine what matches we'll see for this pay-per-view. But I think I think on paper Latimer and Tyrus sounds like a fun match. I think Sam Shaw and Jack Stane sounds like a fun match. I don't know what capacity Aldis will be in. I certainly don't want to see him wrestle Trevor Murdoch for the world title at the 74th anniversary. I don't think we need a rematch from last year, but I'm sure they can find something interesting to do with him.
Maybe him and Tyrus, or maybe him and Dane.
I mean, I would be okay with either one of those, to be quite honest. As long as it's not the world title, I would be okay with that.
Now, have we heard anything about a second set of tapings or a power trip taping or anything like that yet?
There has not been an official word on the next Premiere live event, right? Like they haven't told us anything with regards to that. We could assume that there'll probably be one in like early August or late July, but nothing has been confirmed as of yet.
I'm just curious because, tomorrow is July.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're really hitting the 74th hard, but I would hate to think that they did all their tapings after the last pay-per-view, because we know how painful the tapings get towards the end of them when they're run out of stuff.
Well, keep in mind that those pay-per-views, the 74th is going to be on August the 27th and August the 28th. So that's a Saturday and Sunday. So there's a lot of time in between that they could do another Premiere live event. But there's no guarantee that that's going to happen either. So,
I don't even need that. If they just did a set of taping somewhere.
Yeah, but they haven't done that before. That hasn't followed. That isn't following their, MO, I guess.
Well, their power trips basically act as a second set of tapings because they do shows off that. They need to come up with a better concept. I don't know, but we're almost an hour into the show, so at some point, I suppose we need to talk about what we saw.
I think it real quick, and I just want to put a button on what you just said. It's very easy to fix this. To do a second set of tapings, they just announce it, call it a Premiere Live event, have one main event match that's going to be a top tier type match. Again, Adam Shearer versus Trevor Murdoch. If not him, EC3. If not him, somebody who's going to be a draw, somebody who will get people there. And then just do a regular TV taping around that. Boom. Taken care of. You're done. It doesn't have to be an all-star event. It doesn't even have to have that super main event either, especially if they're going back to Kentucky or Knoxville. The fan base is there. They want the NWA there. It's not like it was a hard draw for them. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm talking too much. But let's get to NWA USA. You guys okay with that?
If we have to.
This is when I'm going to bow out, so I don't have to keep going about how I didn't watch it. So, guys, have a good night. And I feel sorry for you guys having to talk about this. Have a good night, everybody.
Not as sorry as we feel.
Hey, have a good one. And there he goes. Willie wants you to know that if they put Tyrus back into the pie-eating contest or let him be the Goodyear blimp flying over the Sophie Stadium during the Rams or Chargers NFL games, that's a perfectly good use for Tyrus. Again, I didn't hate the guy on commentary, but
I actually liked him on commentary.
I
was hoping they were moving him there.
And that's the thing, and we'll talk about this momentarily, but it seems like they're, at the very least, it feels like they're planting seeds for something to happen with the Idolmania Sports Management. Some sort of implosion, I think, might be coming towards us. But we'll talk more about that when we get there. Let's start off with NWA USA, Season 3, Episode 2. I know there's a lot of people out there who have a problem with Poil Del Mar. If you guys aren't aware, Poil Del Mar is a drag queen. They prefer to be called she because they are playing a character. And the character is an over-the-top manager who's looking to get fame, looking to become a manager of the NWA Tag Team Champions, of the Crockett Cup Champions. This is from Poil's own mouth. I've spoken to her on different podcasts in the past, and So I don't have a problem with that. But the way they booked this match, to me, I want better for the NWA. I want better for everyone involved in this match. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish. And the match I'm speaking of course, is Thrillbilly Silas with Poyle Damar taking on Luke Hawx. Now, after what happened at Alwayz Ready, Hawx is a very unhappy camper. Of course, he was a victim of circumstances at the pay-per-view. When he made the save for Homicide, he was attacked by the Fixers as well. And Hawx took exception to the fact that Homicide had a lack of concern for the Hawx family after that beatdown. So, I mean, he's obviously in a bad mood. Sets up for a good match, right? An angry guy who's, you know, his nickname is the Southern Stomper, so you expect to see some violence out of this one. His opponent is Thrillbilly Silas, who, you know, he's kind of new to this NWA, but he's been around for a while. Thrillbilly Silas previously worked under the name Cassius Coons. Spent a lot of time in the Pacific Northwest working for NWA Blue Collar, which, again, that's an NWA promotion at the time. West Coast Wrestling Company, and Don't Own Anyone Wrestling. He also worked the IHWE California shows back in the day when Dave was kind of growing his product outside of just Texas. And then he, before Billy Corgan purchased the National Wrestling Alliance, he had worked one NWA Smoky Mountain show. So, I mean, he's been around, and of course, he has a reasonably decent look. He kind of reminded me of Josephus, the late Josephus, in his style and the way he looked, his mannerisms. But the pairing with Poyo wasn't really well explained. They just said that he was looking for the prettiest girl and found Poyo. So, okay, whatever, I get it. But the match was more of an ass whooping for Silas than anything else. Luke Hawx came out there and just really put the hurt on him. The one point where Silas did get the upper hand and Hawx was down, Poyo jumps up on the ring ropes to give the chaw out of Poyo's mouth and placed it in the mouth of Silas, and then they kissed. And then that's where Luke took the advantage and hit the spinning wheel kick for the 1-2-3. I don't care about any of the gimmicks that are involved in this match. I just thought that was a dumb way to put Hawx over. Hawx was literally kicking this dude's ass the entire time. It wasn't a very competitive match. He was beating up this guy, and that's what it takes for him to get the 1-2-3. It just seems like, look, use that gimmick later to put somebody else over who would need that boost. Luke Hawx shouldn't need that boost. He should have got that match clean. It shouldn't have been any kind of silliness on the outside. And this is coming from someone who respects Poyle Damar, who's talked to Poyle Damar. I thought this was that silliness, that gimmick part of it should have been reserved for another opponent, maybe like Magic Jake Dumas or whatever, because I just felt like it was wasted here. DK, what were your thoughts on this one?
Well, you're going to make me think more than I actually want to about this.
Well,
well, let me start with, I don't have any problem with Poyle Damar. So don't take anything I say as a criticism against her. I mean, this is not the way I would use her. I thought she worked well either when she was managing like a women's tag team or a women's wrestler, or even, you know, men's tag team wrestling or whatever, where she's managing people who maybe you think, hey, if they book this right, but if they book this right, you know, they could have, you know, she could have strong contenders or even champions at some point. And so that's not my problem.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with one of the problems I had, and I pointed this out last week with, you know, whoever got destroyed last week, but by Sam Shaw. They have this tendency of like really pushing the person who's going to lose.
Yeah.
In their advertising and stuff like that. oh, the Thrillbilly's coming on, Thrillbilly's with Playa Demar, and you think, okay, it's an odd couple gimmick, I can get it. It's like, and he's going against Luke Hawx, except for they don't really talk about that much. They just talk about, Thrillbilly and Playa Demar and them acting silly together. And I guess the joke is supposed to be that we all know she's a drag queen, but he doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like that's the gimmick they're going for.
I mean, that he's kind of this dumb hillbilly who doesn't realize that he's kissing a guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I need that. And again, big fan of Poya. She's done a lot for the NWA. She's the one that talked to Valkyrie and asked her to come in and do some shots. And so, let's use her right. Let's book her right. Let's stop pushing that the guy that's coming in to lose is somehow like this big new star that's coming in. And, let's promote the person who's going to win. Why wasn't the promotion Luke Hawx and Madden? They said at the beginning, and he wants the biggest guy that's willing to fight him. Why wasn't that the push for this show?
Yeah.
That should have been the push for the show. And then that's when, if you put Luke Hawx against Homicide at the pay-per-view, you've done enough to build and you've done enough to do stuff to where it's like, yeah, now I'm excited. I want to see that match. And, this kind of an angry, crazy Luke Hawx. Is he a face? Is he a heel? What's the deal here? And we're not getting that.
Yeah.
In the pushing, in the advertising for the Power episodes. And then kind of like you said, I don't know that I needed Luke to win by distraction. And it made no sense.
Yeah.
Why would Poya jump up at a point where her guy's about to win and to exchange chaw and spit? And so it's just the match itself was okay. It wasn't blow away, but the ending kind of left you feeling.
The way that I felt about it was this. It was, the match was fine. It was a fine introduction for Thrillbilly Silas. And I don't have a problem. Like I said, the whole gimmick, I was fine with the gimmick. Didn't bother me at all. I just felt like that kind of that transition should have been in a match where the Thrillbilly was in control of the match the entire time and then lost because he got distracted by his valet, as opposed to he's getting his ass kicked the entire time. And once he finally got the upper hand, then he goes to see his lady. And that just didn't make sense to me. Like, that gimmick is that sequence didn't make sense. I was fine with everything else. And like you said, I think I see Poyo better as a tag team manager, because that's what Poyo's specifically said. Her goal is to become the manager of champions. She wants to manage the tag team that wins Crockett Cup 2024 or 2023. Excuse me. So if that's the case, putting her with a knockoff Josephus, I don't think that's going to do it. And I don't mean to pile on Silas. I mean, you do the job that you're told to do. I just wish that the ending of this match would have been reserved for a time where Thrillbilly Silas was actually doing well in a match and then lost that way. I know it's silly, but that's just what I think.
Well, the way I see her is that if I see her as a non-wrestling Dalton Castle, you get her two good-looking guys or two good-looking girls, and she comes out with one on each side and each hand, and brings them out in her flamboyant way. And, they're a cross between both flamboyant but hard and, stuff like that. That's where she would just shine, and where you would you would like the team just because of her, and then you book them correctly, and hope they have talent. Then you're doing something. So I would certainly much prefer seeing something like that. So anyway, I guess we've beaten that dead horse. What happened next on the show?
You said horse, right? You said beating the dead. Okay, so I'll make sure. Then next we get Chris Silvio Esquire, the attorney from one Mr. Jack Stane, our national champion, the Dane event, if you will, the man who held the World Heavyweight Championship, the man who, wrestled in New Japan as an NWA World Tag Team Champion, the man who briefly unified the North American and the national championship, the man that currently holds the national title for a second time, the only guy from that era to come back and win a title. Jack Stane. And so Chris Silvio is visibly frustrated with the actions of Eric Jackson. And this is a little surprising to me because Eric Jackson seemed like a fly that got in the way that Jack Stane easily swatted away. But Silvio proclaims that Jackson put his hands on his client, Mr. Jack Stane, and has done zero to earn a title shot. Now, that I 100% agree with you, Mr. Chris Silvio. This guy doesn't deserve a title shot. I don't know if he even deserves to be on TV at this point. We're talking about the national champion. And, Jack Stane has defended that title against some reasonably decent talent. He won the title by beating Anthony Mayweather. And then he went on to defend against Marshe Rockett. And then he had a title defense against the former champion, Chris Adonis. These are great matches. Marshe Rockett was a very solid match. The match with Chris Adonis was a very good match, a good victory for Jax. This does nothing to etch him in infinity. This does nothing to mark his legacy. This was a throwaway match. And again, I don't really know why they wanted to do this one, but I agree with Chris Silvio. DKM, your thoughts on that promo?
Well, I don't like Chris Silvio, unfortunately, so I have a hard time listening to him. And you know what should never happen? The heel manager should never make sense. I should not be in agreement with the heel manager.
Yeah.
And I'd like to take a moment here to try and figure out exactly what his role is, because the two are actually very rarely together. Normally, he comes out by himself for the. Who's he married to? He's married to somebody, isn't he?
Genocide, I believe.
Genocide, okay. So, he normally comes out by himself and is interviewed in the back, and occasionally he's with Jax, but he almost never comes to the ring with Jax. I think that happened once, and it's just I don't fully get his thing. I don't fully get his role, so that's difficult. But I'm listening to the interview and I'm thinking, well, this guy makes sense. He's right. Everything he's saying is correct. And it's just like, that shouldn't happen. So, again, Billy booking, I don't know what to say about it. But before we move on, because I don't know if you'll bypass this or not, but I want to talk about the Danny Deal and whoever that girl is, commercials.
Candy.
Is there anything more annoying on the show than that?
I got to be honest. I literally fast forward through it. I don't pay attention to it. It does nothing to make me want to buy merchandise. And I hate to say it, Danny Dills is
that makes me want to not buy merchandise.
Right. He is a negative for me. So, as much as I love our boys, Will Martin and Gary Horn, as much respect as I have for Joe Galley and Kyle Davis, when I see that Danny Deals is on that show, it makes me not want to watch that either.
I mean, I'll be honest. I normally do what you do, which is fast forward. But in this particular thing, I wasn't in a place where I could fast forward through it, and I had to leave it running while I was doing something else. And it was so bad. And I don't know how long it was, but it felt like forever.
It felt way too long.
I mean, just forever. Like, why? Why would you do this to your fan base? Why would you torture them this way? And I mean, is anybody out there, those of you in Chatland, does anybody enjoy seeing that? I see James H. Jackson Jr. says, I buy NWA merchandise despite of Danny Deals. And it's like, I would think anyone who buys it is not buying it because Danny's part of the thing. I mean, I would think that they're doing it just because they support the product.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I have bought stuff from this version of the NWA before. And, but,
it's rough. It's a rough go. And again, I'm sure there's a part of the audience that's like, yeah, man, that's funny. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the demographic. I'm 43. I'll be 44 in November. You know, but stuff like this just is not appealing to me. I just don't see the value in it. It's not funny. It's not interesting. It's not clever. It's not like chic. It's not like it's none of these things. It's not risky to be risky. It's just there.
It's not really stupid. I mean, yeah. There's a certain amount of, oh, well, it's just stupid or whatever. I mean, to me, it's just bad.
Yeah. Our pal Tim says, what about Deals as a manager? I'll be honest. I'd much rather see him as a manager than as that guy hawking merchandise. I get it. In the real world, that's what he does. He does the merch for the NWA. But, like, at least as a manager, you're out there to get heat. As this character, Danny Deals, the merch slinger, I mean, you're not there to get heat. You're there to sell merchandise, and nothing you're saying is making me want to buy your gear, your merch.
If he comes out and if he's a heel manager, and well, yeah, I'd buy it. Medusa was selling it too, but probably a younger version of her. You know, and he did the typical heel manager rant. I wouldn't put him with people who can't talk on their own. Like, I wouldn't put him in a Jim Cornette position.
No.
Where he has to talk for the tag team because, you know, neither Dennis nor Bobby or Stan, you know, really talked when Dennis was when they were Midnight Express people. I put him in a J.J. Dillon type thing where, you know, J.J. Dillon didn't have to talk for any of them. The only one who didn't talk well was Lex Luger, but he was surrounded by others that did. And Dillon still did a wonderful job. He still had his place, still had his part. And if Danny Deals was hooked up with either a wrestler or a tag team, I don't want a Danny Deals stable. And I don't want the Ill Begotten. But if he was hooked up as part of a, you know, was a team or a person who could talk, and then he could kind of talk, you know, either just before him or just behind him, and, you know, emphasize the things, slick back his hair into a ponytail.
Well, remember, he was the one responsible for bringing Jack Stane back into the NWA, and what
he dressed up as Tim Storm's mother.
Sure. And let's get past that for just a second.
I can't.
Okay. But just imagine if he was managing Jack Stane, right? You've got a legitimate beast, and Jack Stane can cut the promos. He doesn't need someone to do that for him. But then Danny Deals can come in there and be goofy, and Jax can be all business. And then you have something interesting there. That's one way to do it. But like you said, like the Ill Begotten, you know, I would like to see the Ill Begotten without Danny Deals. Somebody like Jack Stane could make that work. I don't know. We're spending way more time talking about Danny Deals than I had ever intended to. But I agree with you. He doesn't. What would Luthez do? Says Deals is a carny used car salesman. Doesn't inspire me to open my wallet, and that's kind of how I feel too.
And neither does Candy, for that matter. I'm sorry. She's may be a wonderfully nice lady, but her part there with Danny, and where she almost never talks, and not even dressed up as eye candy, is even when she was a cheerleader, which was kind of scary. But yeah, I mean, they're trying for something, but they're not achieving it. So what else happened on the show so we can stop talking about it?
Okay, so the next part was then we had May in the back with Austin Idol and Black G's. Now this was a weird, this was it was like being a fly on the window of a meeting that I had no interest in being involved in. You had a conversation kicking off with both parties celebrating each other, talking about how much they respect each other. Things begin to deteriorate rapidly when May asks G's if he has a boss. Now, Black G's is convinced that this is a partnership and that they're working together for the benefit of the talent. And Idol reminds him, saying, no, you are the junior executive to Idol Sports Mania. You are not my equal. You are my lesser. And then the two debate the hierarchy of management for Idol Sports Mania, Idol Mania Sports Management, whatever. And this is just another know-nothing segment. However, they could be planting the seeds of dissension in the Idol Mania Sports Management group. We've talked about some of the best contenders for Tyrus's TV title are right there in Idol Mania Sports Management. You've got Jordan Clearwater, Marche Rocket. You've got my brain is not working right now. There's still Scion in the group, right? So 3 adequate challengers for the TV title, and not one of them is really in a position to challenge because they're all part of the same family. If somehow Idol Mania breaks up and you've got Austin Idol perhaps maybe representing both Scion and the TV champion Tyrus, and Black G's takes his talents with Marche and Jordan Clearwater separate, now you have the means of a feud for that TV title that would be at the very least interesting. What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is I don't expect to see Clearwater again until he loses the United World title. And so then the question is there somebody else they could bring in or use? I don't know. And this is one of those places where this would be a lot more interesting if there wasn't always dissension somewhere in the NWA and team, whatever. And unfortunately, they've, what's the word? Desensitized? Yeah. They've kind of desensitized me to dissension because sometimes you end up with Mayweather versus Dane, which, I mean, I really think that happened more because Mayweather was stepping back than anything. Because, we haven't even seen him since he lost the title. Right. And so I think that was kind of a way just to, take the title off of Adonis and get it to Dane. And
I think Mayweather is legitimately hurt. I think that's why we haven't seen him.
Well, he wasn't wrestling that much before.
Yeah.
He may be legitimately hurt. But, he's been around quite a while, and I'm sure his body's a little bit banged up. I don't know that he'll ever be a full-time guy, which luckily with the NWA you don't have to be. But was I going to point to all this when I started? Maybe
there was. Did you lose it?
I don't know anymore. Well, we're just talking about, dissension, and it never went anywhere with Aaron Stevens and Kratos, and they've done it with other teams and other things. This isn't new. Remember, this actually isn't Cyrus's first time to team with Idol Sports Management. He actually kind of came out and teamed with them when all of a sudden when it was like, okay, he's not getting over with the fans, so we're just going to turn him heel and he's just going to be part of this.
Yeah.
And then so he teamed with them, and then he was challenging Tyrus again, and then nobody knew if he was a heel or face because Billy's stupid and doesn't like to, do typical heel face stuff. And, why do something that's worked? And I don't know. It reaches the point where this could have been interesting if A, they don't always do it, and B, from the moment they made him a junior executive, 10-word long title, you kind of knew that was going to cause a problem.
Yeah.
So spent too long on it. Take me somewhere else.
I'd love to. So now that that's done, we get a main event for the night. And it's, again, back to 2 matches on USA, which I guess is all right. We get Jack Stane, your NWA National Champion, against Eric Jackson. Now, this is silly. Again, this match shouldn't be happening. They should have gotten a better opponent for Jax. I mean, he doesn't even take off his vest. And I hope he doesn't. When they put matches like this on paper for him, I hope he never takes off the vest. He should have left the sunglasses on because this was a non-match. Dane won the title at Crockett Cup 2022 when he invoked his Championship Series cash-in. Since then, he's defeated Marshe Rocket on USA, Chris Adonis at Alwayz Ready, and this is his 3rd title defense since March. Jax cannot do anything Jackson can't do anything with the Dane event. Dane toys with Jackson the entire time before eventually 2 clotheslines before popping the trunk, which is that Western lariat that Dane uses to decapitate people. I would much rather see Jax face different competition, even if it's the B show.
We'll talk about B show. This isn't a main event. This is an opening squash match.
Yeah.
Stop insulting me. Stop telling me, oh, and here's our main event for the national title. It went too long. The guy got some offense in, which was too much. This should have been a 90-second match where Dane pressed him over his head and drops him and then hits him with a lariat, and it's over. And it should have been like the first match on the show. And then they should have given us a good mid-carder level match, which I suppose in some ways they were trying to make Hawks versus, Thrillbilly the mid-carder level match, except for, the fact that none of us care about Thrillbilly because you haven't given us a reason to.
Right.
So, I mean, overall, I did not like this show. I'm just going to go to my summary here. Overall, I did not like this show. It left me irritated. And, the thing is, it wasn't even like the worst show they've ever done.
No.
I couldn't even say it was just like oh, man, they've had shows that have just left me gobsmacked because they were so terrible.
Right.
And it wasn't one of those. It was just like, you guys really insulted me with this episode. And especially trying to tell me that was a main event.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not the worst show that they've presented to us, but it wasn't a good show. I think I said to you in the chat, like, look, the matches weren't that bad, but it just, I don't know. It certainly was lacking some star power. And I get it. I get that these knockout tapings, they're trying to stretch this as much as they can. But, like, it just goes to show you, like, this is a flawed business model. It just doesn't make sense. You need to go out there and do more tapings so you don't have to give us gruel. We deserve better than this. And, I get it. The YouTube audience is a free audience, so you're not really putting a whole lot behind it. The Power audience is a paying audience, but even as our pal James H. Jackson said, look, man, you're paying $50 for the pay-per-views and you get the other crap for free. I mean, there's some truth to that. I don't know if anyone officially would say that from the NWA, but there's a lot of truth to that, and it shouldn't be like that. If they cared about the product, they'd be putting out a much superior product. NWA USA at one point was a superior show to Power, and it's hard to believe how far it's fallen since then. Let's put a bigger emphasis on the junior heavyweight division on USA. Let's put a bigger emphasis on the national championship. No more jabronis challenging for the national title. Let's get some stiffer competition in there. If it's not Jordan Clearwater, fine. If it's not, there's guys on that roster that make sense. There's Sam Shaw. There's Tom Latimer. There's Jordan Clearwater. Again, if none of those guys make sense, hell, give me Jeremiah Plunkett. At least then I know we're going to get a decent match. Hell, give me Rush Freeman. At least he's an enhancement talent that's been used in a positive way. Eric Jackson shouldn't be in the ring with Jack Stain. That guy should be working a cruiserweight triple threat match that we see on Power. I would rather see Judeus challenge Jack Stain for that title and deal with Sinister Minister on my TV than what we got.
Well, I mean, to me, of everybody that you rattled off, the one that stuck out to me is, of course, our buddy Jeremiah Plunkett, who, a good veteran. He can have a good match with practically anyone. Dane can put on a good match. So that's the type of main event that I expect on a 30-minute free show.
And let me ask you this.
You know who's going to win, but Plunkett can look better than you think he's going to look, and maybe get a quick roll-up that goes for 2, and you go, oh, my gosh.
Hell, give him a dusty finish. Let us think he won the title for 30 seconds. But what I was just about to say is those names that I rattled off, who's the baby face there? There is none, right? Like, who is the baby face on the roster? The Pope is really the closest thing we have to a baby face. Tell me who else on the roster is a baby face.
I don't know.
Your silence is proving everything. So, all right, let's jump on to Power now, because I actually thought Power was a pretty good show. I think this is actually closing out the Knocks Out TV tapings. What we've been watching for the last few weeks was literally recorded in one day. So you get it when you see the audience, and it's just kind of a ho-hum reaction to a lot of things. I think it's just because they're done. You can't put so much wrestling on one taping and expect people to be excited about it. But can we jump to Power season 9 episode 3?
I actually enjoyed Power, but part of the reason may have been because I watched USA and Power back to back.
Yeah. The show kicks off with our friend Matt Cardona and Kyle Davis. Now, Cardona makes the point that he wasn't defeated for the title. And I think that's very important for this promo, because when the time comes, when he comes back, he's gonna preach that, hey, I never lost that belt. They took it off me. And I think that's a great to acknowledge, because when he does, like I said, when he does come back, he's gonna have a rematch, and he's gonna say, whoever the world champion is, well, you didn't beat me. If it's Murdoch, you didn't beat me. If it's Aldis, you didn't beat me. If it's Sam Shaw, you didn't beat me. So I feel like that was a really good way to play it out. He said that he wants a shot at Murdoch when he gets healthy, and he begs Billy to keep his promise. So if Billy said that, hey, you're going to get a shot when you're healthy, then theoretically that's going to happen. Matt goes on to say that his family is still dominant. Now, this is the part where I'm like puzzled, because again, they didn't really expand on it, but they said like, VSK is going up and down the show, and Mike Knox has been dominant. But if you think about it, Knox, all he's done so far since the pay-per-view is put Bully Ray through a table. VSK hasn't done anything of note. Like, they should be putting VSK into a title match with Homicide if that's what we're going to do. And Chelsea is in the women's tag team match tonight. So I'm not really sure what Matt's talking about, his family's being dominant. But at the very least, it was a pretty decent promo as far as I'm concerned. DK, what did you think?
I actually love the promo. When he did this is the first time I said, okay, this is the person who should have come into the NWA to begin with.
Yep.
Cutting this type of promo, doing this type of thing. The way he ragged on Kyle Davis was great. The way he turned himself into the interviewer instead of the interviewee.
That was good.
It was awesome. And then we just kind of send Kyle off, when he didn't want to talk to him and was just talking directly to the people. And I understand what you're saying with the Cardona family, and that doesn't make a ton of sense. But I think that was just heel bravado,
Sure.
Just the we're great. We're still winning up and down. We're still dominating. Everybody knows you're not, but I'm not going to admit it. I'm telling you that we are. And yeah, overall, look, I'll be honest, best part of the show.
All right.
I mean, if they were smart, they would have done this at the end.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's get to more of the show then, right? The next thing we have is Genocide and Misa Kate, first-time tag team, taking on Max the Impaler and Chelsea Green, also first-time tag team. Now, I wish they would get the booking consistent with how they want to book Genocide. I wish they were all on the same page, because one week we hear Genocide wants to be a solo act, and that she's not teaming with Paola Blaze. She's done with Taryn Terrell. She's going to go out on her own. And then the next time we see her in the ring, she's in a tag team match. It just, I get as a wrestler, like even the built-in storyline. Well, look, I just do what they book. They booked me in this match. I do this match. But like in a division on the roster that needs help, the women's tag team division, why not take this seriously and put someone in there besides Genocide that makes sense with Misa Kate? Or just say F it, and we're going to go with Genocide and Misa Kate as a tag team, and we're going to put them together for a while, and we're going to put Max and Chelsea Green together, because that works as a tag team as well. I don't care which way they go, honestly. I would just like it to be consistent.
You're asking for a lot.
Yeah, and I get that. Look, I get it. Like even in the big companies, consistency is key, and you rarely see it. The WWE isn't always consistent. AEW isn't always consistent. Hell, none of the wrestling promotions are always consistent. But it just, I don't know, it gets hard to follow the booking. And again, everything that Genocide said about being a solo act and being on her own, then why are you taking this match? But this is the second tag team that she's a part of. Now, Misa Kate has been a part of several tag teams, again, just most recently teaming with Camille. And she works heel, which is odd because, again, Genocide's kind of more over as a face. So, again, the booking's a little confusing. But the spotlight of this match was really Genocide and Max the Impaler, which I think is pretty cool. And I like that. And I think that's going to have repercussions down the road. Either one of these two could be a solid challenge for Camille. Any one of these could be a threat to the Burke. And it kind of felt like this Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd from the WWE in the 80s, where you had this the Impaler who felt no pain, and you had Genocide who was lethal strikes, and their encounter was very larger than life. And it was short, it was brief, and the match ended up ending when Max the Impaler got that backbreaker on Misa Kate. But I felt like that was a sign of things to come. If they decide to run with Killian King and Camille at the next pay-per-view, I hope on the undercard we have Genocide and Max the Impaler, because I think that could be a true test for both of them if they're ready to face Camille. What did you think of this tag match?
I liked it more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
And I liked the tag team of Chelsea Green and Max the Impaler more than I thought I would. To the point where it's like they're kind of a perfect odd couple tag team. It's like we talked about a little bit earlier. Give them some wins on TV, send them against the champions. let them hold the belts even. I wouldn't mind that one direction or the other. The match itself, I have one criticism.
Let's hear it.
They basically had a pretty good standoff between Genocide and Mad Max.
Yeah.
The non-binary, whatever they call her.
Right.
And then just kind of like out of nowhere, she turns around, she gets hit by what the announce team called a standing Thez press. Okay. And my issue with it was that it basically put Genocide out. Like, okay, we've just seen that these two are pretty evenly matched. And now you're going to do this one move, and she puts, at least have her, get knocked out of the ring and, something like that where you go, oh, she hit her shoulder on the floor when she landed, or, something that you go, there's a reason why she's out and can't, get back up and recover in time. And instead it's just like, okay, yeah, she wasn't necessarily expecting the move, she turned around into it or whatever, but still it's like it shouldn't have caused that much damage to her after they just had them down. And I think that would be a good program, but I don't know that I want to see that at the pay-per-view, because right now I don't think that Maxine Paler's in a place to lose. And so I don't want them matching up unless I'm not sure who's going to win. And it's just kind of a personal thing there. I mean, if they're matching up and I know Max is winning, then I don't want it. And so I like the tag team with Chelsea Green. So yeah, I'm more for, let's have this as a tag team. Let's have them chase the tag team champions.
I think that would be fun. It just because of the unpredictability of it. I think also because the fact that, although Kenzie Page and LNV, they're cute, they're fun, but they're not super established. And it throws a big wrecking ball into the whole mix. I mean, we were all kind of surprised that the Hex lost the tag titles, but I don't know. I think the NWA needs some diversity when it comes to the women's tag team division. We're seeing the same things over and over again, and I think that this would be a good move for them to strengthen the division. I think it would give it some unpredictability, which I think is always good in pro wrestling. And I think that would have been a much better deal, or I think it's a much better idea if that's where they push Max the Impaler going forward. At least it would, like you said, it wouldn't be a predictable matchup between her and her and Genocide if they go with Chelsea Green and Max.
Well, not just that. The Hex held titles for a long time, and I was content with them holding them even longer, but kind of like Camille with the women's championship. But okay, you want to pop the hometown crowd or whatever. You put the titles on Paige and MV. All right. I don't see them as long-term champions. I see them as short-term champions. And in this case, I could see them as transitional champions because, at the next pay-per-view, you put the titles on Max and Green, and then you got the I like that Max uses her partner as a weapon in the match. That was nice. Very, very Max. And very Mad Max. Obviously, that's her gimmick. And I think they would make a good thing. I would like to see Hex versus Green and Maxie and Paler. Chelsea Green and Maxie and Paler. I think that could be a fun match. Sienna's a big, strong woman herself.
Allison K, sir.
I know, but I still remember Sienna. And not to mention, she still has it on half her accounts.
Yeah, I actually heard her talking about that, and she wanted to change it, but they wouldn't let her change it without redoing the whole verification process. So she's like, "All right, forget it. I'll just keep it." Okay, so after that, then we get May Valentine in the back with Rodney Mack. Now, you and I are huge Rodney Mack fans, basically because he had a hand in training our pal, our buddy, our best friend, Kevin Frazier. So we're always sitting here rooting for Rodney Mack. But this was kind of a weird little bit here. He mentions needing some help to guide him. And we're talking about a seasoned veteran, a guy who's been in the ring for like what, probably close to 30 years as an active pro wrestler
And a trainer.
and trainer. And again, he's a former NWA like North American champion. He competed against Steve Corino. He competed against Dan the Beast Severin. It's like I don't know what exactly we're gonna get from a guy with this much experience needing help. But if he was gonna get help, I was hoping that this might be like a Black Cheese or an Austin Idol again, because I want something. I know it sounds silly because I just said like, oh, that could be imploding, but I don't know. I feel like putting him with a heel manager, putting him in a group like Idolmania Sports Management makes him a lot more lethal. Anyways, what did you think about this promo? And do you think I'm onto something putting him in a heel group or no?
Well, I don't want him a heel group because I want to cheer for him. Outside of that, he it doesn't make sense, like you said, for a guy that we all know is a trainer. This isn't, shocking news. And we all know has been around forever and, who's held all sorts of titles all across the country, including, he's a former champion for both IHW and IHWE. He's held the NWA Mississippi title, the NWA Texas title, the NWA Velocity title. He's been part of the Ohio Valley Tag Team Championships. He even held titles recently in the NWA. I'm not the NWA, the Southwest Wrestling, SWE. He's been all around. He's held lots of titles. In fact, I put one of my most liked pictures ever was I posted a picture of him when he was in IHWE, where he came out with all his regional titles, and it was kind of, and like he said, that wasn't even all his belts, but he kind of had that J Crown look.
Yeah,
and yeah. I don't know. The promo didn't make a lot of sense to me. And it was also one of those, I don't think it made a lot of sense to anybody. And when we talked to the match, I did notice something during the match. So we want to get to that.
All right. Well, then let's get to more of the show. Next up, we get the triple threat match with Sal Renaro, your pal Sal. Maybe not our pal, but
Sal's a pal now.
Yeah. You got Gustavo, who maybe he's like the unsung hero of the NWA at this point, because every time you see him, yes, he's enhancement, but he's enhancement, and he goes out there and puts his heart into the match. He gets beaten up. Pin me, pay me. Very much the quintessential jobber. And then you got PJ Hawk, who again felt like this match was just built to make him look good, which is, I don't have a problem with that whatsoever, because if he's a future contender for the junior heavyweight title, of course he wrestled Homicide at Alwayz Ready. If he's bound to get another shot at that belt down the road, he needs to get more wins in the junior heavyweight division. They pointed out quickly that Hawk was the heaviest wrestler in the match. He's also the most complete wrestler in that match. I've seen Sal Renaro have good wrestling matches, but since this whole gimmick change and this everything else, he's been more of a bore to me than ever before. And no, I didn't mean to rhyme there. Sal is still stuck with the whole sick and twisted thing. And he's sitting there reaching out for Father James Mitchell to give him praise or approve him or whatever. But while he's sitting there reaching out, PJ just scoops him up, suplexes him, and makes him tap out to the Hawks clutch. I didn't think this was a very good match. I think it had a potential to be better. I didn't like the ending, but I really do like PJ Hawks. And like I said, I really feel like Gustavo's out there putting some work in, making these guys look good. So I was happy for that. But like, again, the Sal's just kind of gotten to a point where now he's like that heat where you just want to turn off the show.
Yeah. Well, first it was a three-way. So anybody who's watched the show knows my opinion of three-ways just in general. Next is Sal's booking is just ridiculous. Where's Gimp when you need him? Really? Come on. And so
we almost had the rains down here in Jake Howell's studios.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was tired of Sal when he was still a face and still before James Mitchell. Since James Mitchell, I can barely stand the sight of him.
Yeah.
And with his gimmick now, it's almost vomit inducing at this point. The other enhancement guy, I mean, he had a couple of moments, but I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't get me excited. He's there, like I said, he's there to get paid and beat, or beat and paid.
Yeah.
And now I will say this when it comes to PJ Hawks. You can tell that guy has done a lot of work since he first showed up.
Yeah.
I mean, his body has transformed. When he was there, first came in, he was a little bit soft. He kind of had that Rock and Roll Express build, skinny, but not what you
fat
call
skinny.
Yeah, yes, that kind of fat skinny. They look a little bit flabby or whatever. They look soft. But you can tell he's worked out. His arms are bigger. His shoulders are bigger. His pecs have definition now. And so he's done a lot of work. And he has a good mix of that amateur and pro wrestling that I like. And so his style really matches up a type of wrestling that I enjoy. So he's still really young.
Just means he's got a lot more potential. He hasn't reached his ceiling yet.
Right. And so, I mean, my point is I'm not ready to rush him. I'm not ready to, put the world junior heavyweight title on him today. I'm not, that type of thing. I'd like to give him at least a couple more years to develop a little bit more and a little bit better and, and see how it goes. But he's good, and it wouldn't surprise me if at some point somebody somewhere doesn't take notice of him.
If anyone wants to send you a T-shirt of the Gimp, what size do you wear, TKM?
Extra large.
Somehow, some way, that's going to happen, and you're going to open up the package. You're going to be like, "What the hell happened?"
Well, they still have to get my address from me. So
this is true, but how many DKMs live in the Fort Worth area?
Enough.
we get May in the back with La Rebelion, and this is kind of pathetic. I've loved that tag team since their debut, and I love Mecha Wolf. I love Bestia 666. I've been down to Mexico. I watched them win the Crash titles because I believed in this tag team, and I love La Rebelion, but they're belly aching that they lost the titles. They're making excuses, and that's what heels do. So maybe we're seeing a paradigm shift for the former World Tag Team Champions, but they're complaining that Harry was in the ring for far too long, And it's just a lot of belly aching, and I was kind of shocked to hear it from them. But they went to the office, they talked to Billy, and Billy's going to give them an opportunity to challenge for the tag titles under a Lucha Rules match, which, again, wasn't really specified what Lucha Rules means. What did you think of the promo, Mr. DKM?
It wasn't bad, but I mean, there was nothing. Whereas, like, Matt Cardona just entertained me. I don't know that this just entertained me.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, okay. And that was about the size of that. And I don't know. Look, there were some pictures released. So I'm assuming at some point they get joined by somebody else, which I don't know if we want to get into. So I'm not going to say names or anything like that. And I was kind of hoping that maybe that appearance would be today, but it wasn't. So I was kind of left disappointed in the promo, and then later in the match too.
I do not know what you're speaking about, and I'm not trying to be glib. I haven't seen those photos, so I don't know for sure what you're talking about. And I'm actually very interested to see what it is about. I'll be taking a look later to try to figure that out. James H. Jackson said the slide down the ropes and your partner's tagged in was weird to me, and we'll get to that momentarily. But like you said, the promo was just whatever. It definitely was planting seeds for the match later in the evening, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. Next up, we have our guy, who we put so much respect on, his name Rodney Mack, taking on the Southern gentleman Anthony Andrews, and we get Rodney Mack with Aaron Stevens. And I'm reminded of something that you say quite a bit. It's usually with regards to Nick Aldis, but how can I miss you if you don't go away? Aaron Stevens' departure from the NWA was legitimately supposed to be at the pay-per-view. That was his swan song. He was leaving. He was done. He was gone. Until he never left the building, because he was there the very next night for these TV tapings, which they said, we haven't seen Aaron Stevens in a few weeks, but we know that that's just not true because the way the TV's taped. I get it. We're trying to make Hollywood here. But at the same time, like, it's only been 3 weeks via television. So, again, where is the mystique here? If this would have been after the 74th anniversary, if Rodney Mack had another title shot and lost this opportunity, then I would feel like this would make sense. But this didn't make sense. Anyways, I'm not sure where they're going with this gimmick. I don't, I might have cared if it happened later, but right now I don't. I really do like Aaron Stevens. I really do like Rodney Mack. But this just didn't make sense to me. Anyways, the match was, I felt like Rodney Mack was a better performer, better wrestler, got more offense in as a solo act than he did as having Aaron Stevens be a stooge ringside. What did you think of this match?
Well, about the same thing the crowd did, which was, if you notice, they basically just sat there bored.
Yeah.
And that was very telling. And I didn't get it. I don't understand. I mean, even they were having to go, well, I bet Aaron got his manager's license. Oh, I'm sure he did, or whatever. And it was just like, okay.
Well, that's such a silly rule, anyways. And the fact that they keep running with it, and then this just handed to me as a Velvet Sky. Aaron Stevens has his manager's license. Okay, guys, you don't have to try that hard. I don't care that much.
Yeah, and then it's just like, but I don't know that I'm happy that he has a license. I mean, you said it best. I haven't had a chance to miss you, Aaron.
Yep.
Even if you go by their timeline, 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks that he was gone. Wrestlers can miss 3 weeks normally on the show. I mean, nobody made a big deal about PJ Hawk being gone the entire last taping.
Yeah.
You know, it's, oh, well, we haven't seen him in a few weeks. Oh, my gosh, a few weeks? How scary. Here I thought that he flew to Brazil with what's her name?
Wait, that was the other stupid part. Like, I thought he was gonna go to Brazil with May. Well, obviously May's in the back doing interviews. You guys know this. Come on,
Billy, buddy, my
Billy,
friend,
buddy.
my pal, my Billy,
my confidant.
Makes sense. Okay. Please, makes sense.
Maybe he's incapable.
Give me a chance of. Well, he's an artist, and let me tell you, as somebody has a brother who's an artist, their thinking is not the same as any rational person.
Yes, sir.
And please, Billy, I'm begging you, dude, get somebody who knows what the blank they're doing for old school wrestling, and let's see that.
Sure.
What you promised us, not the crap that you're not the crap that you're actually giving us. And I don't see how someone can book TV so bad and pay-per-view so well.
That is a great comment that you just made, because the pay-per-views for by and by have been very good. I don't think I've had very many complaints about the pay-per-views, but the TV, the weekly format, why is it such a hard art for them to conquer when they do very well at the pay-per-views? You would think it's the same kind of formula. Build it up, pay it off. Build it up, pay it off.
I would think so, but apparently I'm wrong.
Well,
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I honestly don't get it. And so getting back to the whole thing, I mean, the crowd sat on their hands. We don't know why Aaron Stevens was out there. I mean, did the two of them even communicate at all? I don't remember them even communicating.
Most of the time he was on the opposite side of the ring. And it didn't feel like there was anything going on there.
Yeah. And then, he just stares at the guy who loses.
Well, and again, if you're going to do this gimmick with him, again, I'm sorry to interrupt, you're going to do this gimmick with Aaron Stevens, wouldn't that guy be more of an appropriate person for Stevens to mentor? Somebody who hasn't had a history of winning or doesn't have a history of, success. Somebody who's like, yeah, I'm here. I want to learn from one of the best. Teach me. It just, the whole dichotomy just seems very odd to me.
It was bizarre. I will say that. It was bizarre to me, and I didn't understand it.
Well, that takes us to the main event.
The main event.
The World Tag Team titles are on the line on basically free TV. We're talking about a Lucha rules match for the World Tag Team titles. Now, traditionally, I don't mean to brag, guys, but I used to watch a lot of Lucha Libre. Being in Southern California, I'm not exactly bilingual by any stretch of the imagination, but we have access to a lot of Spanish-speaking television stations. And I remember being a young boy watching AAA and CMLL, watching the Ninja Turtles in AAA, or watching later in life, Volador Jr. and Rocky Romero battle over the CML Super Ligero Championship. So I'm not saying I'm an expert in Lucha Libre, but I've seen enough to know Lucha Libre rules. And traditionally, yes, a tag is essentially a tag once one guy steps out of the ring. his partner is allowed to come in, whether the partner's thrown out or tossed over the top rope or just steps out of the ring. The other partner's allowed to jump in. However, in traditional Lucha Libre rules, you have a 2 out of 3 falls in the match. So you have to get more than one pin to win a match. So again, this Lucha rules match in the NWA is not really like Lucha rules. It's the NWA Lucha rules, which, again, I don't care for.
Well, it's another thing, just thrown there. Not only do you have to, is it 2 out of 3 falls, but you either have to pin the captain,
right,
of the team, or you have to pin, like in the trios match, you have to pin 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
And I think in a normal tag team, if you don't pin the captain, basically you have to pin the captain.
Right.
You can pin the captain in it, or you can pin the other guy, and then he's kind of out, and then you have to pin the second guy. And it's they're bizarre rules, but I think the only thing the NWA did in this one was just that you don't need the tag. Right.
And I mean, look, that's fine. That's fine. But, like, I don't know. Let's say that instead of mislabeling it something that's not. And then as this match was taking place, I started thinking about the NWA. And it's kind of funny because had they not pulled the trigger at Power Trip to put the belt, take the belt off of Trevor Murdoch and put it on Matt Cardona, you would probably not have had Nick Aldis challenge for the World's Heavyweight Championship at Crockett Cup, meaning you would have still had the British Invasion of Aldis and Doug Williams as a tag team, which then makes me think, would the British Invasion have bested the Briscoes in the finals of the Crockett Cup, or would the Briscoes have beaten Aldis and Williams? And you know that you've got this whole quandary of what could have happened and how different things could have been just if they would have made one different decision. Anyways, that's a lot of words for not a lot of information. The Lucha Rebellion uses the Lucha rules in this match to make very quick tags. They do a good job of kind of separating Doug and Harry and do a lot of the double tag team moves that we're famous for, Lucha Rebellion. They still don't manage to hit that one move that they're always trying to connect there in the corner. And it just, I don't know, the match was very aggressive early on with Mecha Wolf and Bestia. Like, just, I mean, they dive on the Commonwealth connection before they get in the ring. It's very fast paced, but then it kind of ends very unceremoniously when Harry catches Bestia in a power slam, just like his pop.
Running power slam.
Yeah, running power slam, just like his pops, and gets the 1, 2, 3. I didn't think that was going to be the end of the match. And it kind of felt like, whoa, that kind of came out of nowhere. And it was a good match, but I just felt like it wasn't great. And I felt like they could have done it a little bit better. What did you think, DKM?
Well, I kind of knew that they were running short on time by the time they started this. And then they kickstarted it, and the announce team didn't even know when the match started.
Yeah.
And to tell you the honest truth, I never heard the opening bell either, so I don't know if they had it or if they had it and I missed it with them, or if they never had one. And it was sloppy to me. I felt like it was a very sloppy match. And I won't say it was bad, but I did not enjoy it the way I enjoyed their Crockett Cup match. And then, like you, I was a little bit surprised at the end. It was just kind of like, okay, when he hit it, I was like, I guess that's the end of the match. I mean, that's how the Bulldogs would finish their matches. And it was like, 1, 2, 3. And I was just like, well, okay then.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. Hopefully the pictures I saw will lead to actually something on the show. It may or may not. Maybe it never factored into the actual show, but I would find that much more entertaining.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. again, I want a good tag team. I want good tag team wrestling. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if we're going to see. We were speculating at the 74th, maybe the Briscoes return to challenge the Commonwealth Connection. I'm all for that. I think that'd be great. I don't want La Rebellion to go anywhere. I want them to remain on the show. The weird thing about the NWA is some of these tag teams are, once the champions lose the titles, they seem to disappear, right? Because, we had going all the way back to when Power debuted, we had the wild card, right? They were the tag champions, and when Latimer and I6 lost the belt, we lost I6. And then Rock and Roll Express were there, and then they broke up after losing the titles. And then we had Eli Drake and James Storm, and they broke up after losing the titles. And then you had Stevens and Kratos, and eventually they broke up after losing the titles.
They broke up while holding the titles.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of made up too, but again, that cycle has been there. And now you have La Rebellion, who have been a very dominant tag team since the NWA remanifested in March of last year. And now it seems like, will they be around? We had the Briscoes, who looked like a really legitimate tag team that would be a lot of fun. And then they kind of faded away to Impact. We haven't seen them since their debut in Impact. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm hoping that La Rebellion stays one way or the other. I think they're good for the NWA. I think they're good for the wrestling in general. Now, our pal Luthez says, where did Isaacs end up? Well, Royce Isaacs, when he came to the NWA on a full-time status, he left Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, where he was formerly the Heritage Champion and the Television Champion. So when he walked away from United Wrestling Network and then subsequently left the NWA, he ended up joining the New Japan Strong show, which is basically the New Japan Dojo guys mixed in with some independent wrestling talent. And he's actually part of Team Filthy, which is the same group that has our pal Danny Limelight, JR Kratos, and of course, I6 has gone back to teaming with his regular partner, Jarrell Nelson, formerly the 1%. Now I think they go by the West Coast Wrecking Crew. So I6 is still out there. He's still wrestling on a regular basis. He does indie shows in Colorado and Southern California. He's done a few of the blood sports with Josh Barnett, but he's basically a member of the New Japan Strong roster. And they're currently involved in that tag team tournament to crown a new New Japan Strong Tag Team Champions. I think they ended up, I could be mistaken, but I think they ended up beating TMDK in the first round. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. We're kind of up to it. It's 2 hours into the show. We covered both USA and Power. DKM, is there anything you want to talk about before we call it a night?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, like you, I'd like to keep La Rebellion around for a bit. And I don't know what to do with the NWA sometimes. Power wasn't bad.
No.
I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad.
I agree with you.
USA, I think, was just more disappointing than anything.
And again, I kind of get why that's happening because of the taping schedule. And they're trying to get all of that show, everything that they did at Knocks Out, I think they're trying to get out. I think they're doing it the wrong way. I think they should have just filmed everything for Knocks Out for the first few episodes of Power. And for that first episode of USA, it should have been a taping from the studios in Nashville.
I agree, because there's not really a different feel between the two shows.
Mm-mm.
And since there's not that different of a feel, and you see kind of the same people in the same spots, for the shows that you don't, what's the word? You don't get that sense of separation. And so, so you don't necessarily understand why it's not a better show. And I mean, this week's it was only 24 minutes. It was under 25 minutes.
Yeah.
The USA, which
yeah.
Which is wonderful as it was, it's probably a good thing, but I don't know. I want them to focus here and improve. They need to work on their TV.
Yep.
And, you know, if you were to take this and say to like a network or an investor and go, hey, you know, give us the backing, even one who doesn't understand wrestling would probably go, who would want to watch this? And like I said, they book pay-per-views great. There's only one that I wasn't overly fond of, and most of that had to do with the audience. You know, it's when they filmed in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so that's my thoughts. If you want to follow me on social media, which Jay always asks, follow me on Twitter, and it's at DKMFWTX. So that's my night, Jay. You can wrap it up.
Real quick, I do want to say this. NWA on YouTube currently has 246,000 subscribers. That's huge. Let's not take that for granted. That's a huge number. Just remember the WWE is like at 83 million, just for comparison. But 246 is a lot. And when you look at their video views are, you know, on a daily basis, they're getting like, you know, 8 million views on a daily basis. And I'm not sure which videos they're watching, but they're getting a ton of views. And this is based on one of my favorite sites, Social Blade. They kind of give you a breakdown of what's happening, what's being watched. And just real quick, as I'm looking at their information right now in real time, you know, the Thrillbilly Cometh, Jack Stain defends the national title. That video had 20,000 views. Camille and Killian King face off with Nick Aldis in action. That's the last episode of Power that was on YouTube. Had almost 50,000 views. So they are generating eyeballs on the content. You know, when Sam Shaw arrived for the pre-show, they had 223,000 people watch that. For the season premiere special, they had Bully Ray on. They had 197,000 people watch that. So they're getting numbers.
In addition to the fight ones.
What's that?
In addition to the fight ones.
Yeah. So they are getting people watching the product, but is it very good? I don't know. I see that NWA Gold asked the question, what's that site again? Socialblade.com. They basically audit your social media accounts. I use it to check up on my site to see where I'm at, but you could also check anybody. Like right now, I'm looking at the NWA YouTube page, but they also audit their Facebook pages, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, and all the other like social media sites. Socialblade.com. I'll write it in the chat real quick so you guys can see it before we head out of here. But it's a very useful tool if you like to audit what you see on social media. I mean, I did a podcast just talking about NWA's numbers a year ago or 2 years ago before they came back, and it was a lot of good information. So I do recommend that one. And then our pal James H. Jackson says, if you remember, the USA shows at the beginning had the podium up and real close. It really had a different look and feel to it. Yeah, and now we don't have that. It feels like we're just watching leftovers from Power. So,
and I didn't even think that was that big of a difference.
But it did have a look.
But at least it was. At least there was something different.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the thing. I wish there was a way I could just do the USA ones. Maybe it's in a playlist. But it looks like their average. It looks like their average viewership for USA ranges from about 15 to 30,000, with the just over 20,000 being normal. And their full Power episodes, they're up in like the 50,000, which isn't bad considering that they, this is after the fight,
right?
So people, I don't watch it on YouTube, so. But I do think the one that says the most is the Sam Shaw arrives. And that gets 223 because it's not for Ricky Morton. So Sam Shaw had the name value to, get him 10 times the normal viewership. And so you got to think about things like that. And so,
100%.
You might want to put Sam Shaw versus Jack Stain on the pay-per-view if that's the type of stuff you get.
And believe me, well, don't believe me, but I've heard that they have people who do this research analysis, not just social media, not just YouTube numbers, but literally social media engagement and all that stuff. There's a reason why Matt Cardona won the title. It's because it was equitable, because it moved the needle, because people cared. So don't be surprised if you see Sam Shaw come in and win a title, be it the television or national or something along those lines, because they have research and data that supports that. So anyways,
they booked it better.
Yeah, well, I mean, they get from point A to point B, but they need the storyline, and that's where they're falling short right now. But we should probably wrap this up now. We did everything. Thank you guys for being a part of this 4-day journey. Some of you guys have been here on every podcast we did this week. Willie Bowen, I appreciate you, brother. And anyone else who's checked out everything that we've done this week, my hat's off to you. Not sure when the next sessions with Jake Howell is, but of course, pre-party will be Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Of course, the other Alliance guys will be on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. And then the original format, the original show, the Alliance Guys podcast, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can check us out each and every week here on YouTube and twitch.tv. We do appreciate you guys being here. But that's going to do it for us tonight. And until next time, we will see you at the matches. You have a good night now.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.